Quora Reads. Why are there so many homeless people on the streets at night in the USA versus few in China? Answer by Anthony Han. Many Americans may be too young to remember what happened in the 1970s. Up to that time, state governments maintained a network of public mental hospitals that took care of the mentally ill. The critics at the time said that the care was inadequate and treatment non-existent, and so they said that the mental hospitals were just warehousing hundreds of thousands of mentally ill people. This caused a major popular backlash in the mid-1970s. Movies like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest helped to sway the public into seeing the public mental hospitals as wasteful and dangerous places. So what happened was the political left, liberals, wanted to shut the public mental hospitals down and move the mentally ill to community mental health centers that would be built near where people lived. They believed that doing so would improve the care and would result in more humane treatment of the mentally ill. The political right, conservatives, saw a big chance to shut down the public mental health hospitals and save billions of dollars of wasteful government spending and cut taxes. This was a rare moment of consensus across the political spectrum. So what happened? During the second half of the 1970s, throughout the United States, states closed and emptied out the public mental hospitals. When the left tried to get funding to open community mental health centers, the right blocked it as wasteful spending, and the neighborhoods where those centers were to be located rose up in protest in a classic case of NIMBY, not in my backyard. As the result, the mentally ill ended up with their families that were quickly overwhelmed with responsibility that they were unprepared for. After all, these families placed their mentally ill family members in the public mental hospitals because they could not properly care for them. Even now, most private health insurance in the U.S. do not pay for long-term mental health treatment. Without medication to treat the illness, the afflicted lose touch with reality. Soon we began to see homeless people everywhere. During the 1980s, the political left pointed to the growing number of homeless people as the case of economic inequality and blamed the policies of the Republican administration of President Reagan. The political right basically gave a collective shrug, since homeless people rarely vote, and everyone conveniently forgot how we got there. Since then, this problem is being taken care of in the most inefficient and inhumane manner. We know that the majority of long-term homeless suffer from either untreated mental illness or severe case of substance addiction, either to narcotics or alcohol, or all of the above. They frequently get into minor legal trouble that result in incarceration at the local county jail, where people that have committed minor offenses are held. As a result, in many urban counties, the majority of the county jail inmates are mentally ill people. Since jails are not mental hospitals, their psychiatric conditions are often not treated properly. Once they are released, they stop taking their medication, if they were given any at all. So, without medication, their mental illness comes swiftly back. And unable to deal with reality, they quickly go back to living on the streets. This means that many of the mentally ill in America are being warehoused in county jails with no treatment for their condition. The irony is that the money that we were supposed to save by closing the public mental hospitals is in fact paying to place the mentally ill in jail, which are far more expensive and far less humane. This problem is exacerbated by well-intended efforts by mental health advocates to protect the rights of the mentally ill. As the result, it is nearly impossible in the U.S. to commit a mentally ill person to long-term mental health treatment. Without such treatment, these people go in and out of the mental health care system or the county jail, in between long periods of living homeless in the street. Truly, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. This is a tragic and disappointing aspect of America that I think not enough people know or care about. David A. Kelly. This very good answer describes the situation in places in addition to the USA, and Canada is a prime example. Institutionalizing was declared bad on the grounds of exceptions that permitted families to get rid of their problem members by committing them to mental health institutions. The proposed alternatives of community care was never funded. We, too, have people who need not just housing, but supervisory care so they do not harm themselves or others. Now they are out on the street, desperate and a threat to social order and humanity. Robin Levin. I have traveled in a number of developed countries and a few underdeveloped countries and have never seen anywhere near as many homeless people as we now have here in California. Alex Mara. At least 50% true. Many homeless just want to be there. It's easier than making a life. Then the drugs start, etc. Mark Dunn. We know that the majority of long-term homeless suffer from either untreated mental illness or severe case of substance addiction, either to narcotics or alcohol. How many of the homeless at any given time are long-term homeless? That seems to be an essential part of contextualizing your statistic. All the sources you linked stated that both severe and all-inclusive mental illness only impacted a minority of the homeless population. People too disabled to live a socioeconomically normal life qualify for Medicare, Medicaid almost intrinsically, as will many people with less money, close to or below the poverty line. These cover drug use indefinitely, so private health insurance is not the most relevant route of access for most of the people you are talking about. Obamacare seems to be in the same basket. Whether you call that treatment or not is another matter. They tend to cover very little beyond simple prescribing, only high limited periods of psychotherapy, and virtually nothing beyond short-term counseling or lifelong psychiatric drug management appointments. Notably, these drug-managed appointments don't even prepare patients for responsible drug use in the big picture, adequately address drug harms, help patients reduce or quit responsibly, if that is in their best interest, or otherwise help someone integrate back into society. There is no coverage for helping patients with drugs discontinuation problems, either which can be even more disabling than any pre-existing concerns had been. In short, medication is pretty much the least useful thing we can be offering them, comparatively speaking, if the goal is to get them off the streets in a sustainable way, particularly given how seldom drugs do what prescribers hope they will do in the first place. Without medication, their mental illness comes swiftly back, and unable to deal with reality, they quickly go back to living on the streets. According to the mainstream psychiatric authorities, for instance the APA, drugs fail most patients. A lack of medication coverage would not be explaining the disparities your post is focusing on. Your proposition that so much of this comes down to adhering to a prescribed regimen seems to miss out on the origins of psychological concerns like anxiety, depression, psychosis, mania, etc., as well as the nature of many successes in either alleviating or working through them. It is also worth noting that withdrawal syndromes occur far more than adequate drug effectiveness. People taking drugs inconsistently, most relevantly dropping them without a long, cautious taper, will experience more problems than taking drugs consistently will solve or minimize. There would be a better net result in simply not getting people hooked in the first place. I'm not saying that all or nothing is the ideal approach, but you seem to be taking a very reductivist course in evaluating these concerns. Moving on. Michael Chang. Great answer. I always try to point this out when people wonder about the pervasive homeless problems in rich Bay Area cities and wonder if high housing prices is the primary cause for growing homelessness. Myra Scott. And in urban areas, they go to the library to get out of the weather, where the staff are not mental health professionals. Your thoughts?